everyone. Welcome back to the Save Points podcast. It's been a while, but I'm Suraj Srinivasan. I'm joined by Rishi Arjun and Aarav Kapur. And we're going to be talking about the recent T20 World Cup. It just got wrapped up in the UAE with Australia underdogs, you could say, going into this, winning it and taking the cup home. Pretty exciting finish. I think the last three matches were probably the most exciting of the lot. Good fight by New Zealand. Always end up coming short for some reason. It's super tough on them. But overall, a great tournament, and cricket's doing well overall. Yeah.
So hey everyone, I'm Aarav. I'm a freshman here at Cal. I'm studying econ, and I'm a great cricket enthusiast. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, I think probably the first time I went into an Australia New Zealand match, and for the first time ever, I was like, I think it's the first time New Zealand are actually favorites and Australia are the underdogs in a game between these two countries. But it looked like that they did not play like favorites. New Zealand and Australia did not play like underdogs.
Australia looked ahead on the match from the second innings. After that, they set that score, and probably once Finch got out, I think from there onwards, Australia's game. It
was after that Adam Milne over to Mitchell Marsh. The game never looked like getting out of Australia's grasp. I think a lot of people were shocked. Would have been shocked if you told them a month ago Australia are going to win the World Cup and David Warner is going to be MVP of the tournament. I think a lot of people would have been shocked. Australia have lost 5 T20 series before the World Cup.
Bangladesh being the most recent, which is crazy.
They never play their full team in these series, which is why I don't like to ever count them off. But they didn't really seem to know what their T20 plans were. Finch and Warner both out of form. Steve Smith debates whether he's a T20 player still there. They didn't really come into this tournament with anyone in form except probably Glenn Maxwell from the IPL. All their fast bowlers, that trio, fast bowling core, they have not played cricket in a while either. So it was a lot of questions for Australia for sure, but they pulled through. It had one really terrible defeat to England in the group stage. And after that, they brought Mitchell Marsh back into the team. They abandoned their 5 bowler policy, and they absolutely just cruised through the tournament. I think Pakistan was probably the highlight for them. That was one real close game that could have swung Pakistan's way. Pakistan, who were looking like they were tournament favorites after the first couple of games, but obviously Matthew Wade and Marcus Stoinis, two players who are obviously good T20 players, but not consistent match winners for Australia. But they definitely turned it up in that game. Mitchell Marsh is another player who's been had a very up and down career, and he even said it himself. Most of Australia hates me and they think that the only reason he gets picked is because I'm bad. But Mitchell Marsh ended up being the player of the final, and I think obviously Australia's core also in David Warner, Adam Zampa, Josh Hazlewood, and Cummins all stepped up massively during this tournament. We will talk about Adam Zampa a little bit later when we talk about who should have been MVP of this tournament. But Australia's fast bowling core was exceptional throughout this tournament. I think Hazlewood probably is another consideration for man of the match for that final. 3 for 16 and 52 and 10 overs New Zealand were in the first 10. He absolutely locked Guptill down, and I think if New Zealand look back at it, Guptill's innings might have cost them at least 20, 30 runs. Probably 200 might have been par on that wicket. But I think if one thing that was a bit disappointing with this World Cup, I guess, were conditions and the toss dependency. It's highlighted that in Dubai, only one team won batting first, and chasing teams won every time. And another thing is we didn't really get too many high-scoring games this World T20. And T20 cricket around the world being a batsman's game, I was a little disappointed not to see some more 180 scores. Obviously, you don't want to see 220, 230 consistently, but few games where batsmen had a bit more freedom to play, pitches were not too slow, would have been nice for this World Cup. Obviously, Josh Butler was the only person to make 100 during this entire World Cup, which is pretty surprising that we only had 1 century. But what do you guys think about
selection? Overall, in terms of like selections for squads, I think a big thing that stood out was the second leg of the IPL. I think this is sort of also where India went amiss in their selections. They made a lot of their picks like Chahar, and not to like discount from their performance, but I think the second leg of the IPL being in the UAE they should have based most of their selections on that. And a lot of teams, if you look at Australia, for example, and like Hazelwood bowled extremely well in the second leg of the IPL, and and he remained consistent throughout this tournament. I think that played a huge factor in this, and in terms of selections and how teams remain successful. But any outstanding thoughts for you, Aarav?
Yeah, so I think I agree. Like the toss played a huge role in determining who wins the game. So even like Australia, I think they won all their tosses except that game against England, and that like they lost that game and won the rest of the matches. So yeah, the toss played a huge role. Plus the pitches, the pitches weren't really batsman friendly. Like we saw in the IPL that at least Abu Dhabi and Dubai, they favored the batsmen, and 200 plus scores were made in the IPL, but here in the World Cup, only one 200 plus score was there. And usually the scores in the matches were around 130, 140, and a few odd 160s, 170s. But yeah, of course, in the final, New Zealand made 170 and Australia chased them down. So yeah, I think New Zealand were a bit short. They were 15, 20 runs short, but Australia really played well on the day. Also talking about Australia and the World Cup as a whole, like if before the World Cup someone had told me that Australia is going to win this year, I would literally have laughed at them. Like at least for me, they weren't even in my top 4 favorites. Even when the 4 semi-finalists were selected, like when they qualified for the semi-finals, Australia was like the 4th favorite among those 4 teams as well. So yeah, big surprise in the World Cup. Some huge teams like India and West Indies not qualifying.
Yeah, I think if Mayank, the Australian in Calcutta Club, is watching, I remember him saying before World Cup, I don't even want to watch this T20 World Cup. Australia are absolute shit, and there's no point watching this. I'm waiting for the Ashes.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And I told what I told him. Australia doesn't give 2 craps about bilateral series. They never have. They've been crap in ODI cricket too before 2019 World Cup, and they had a fairly good campaign there as well. Mm-hmm. They never play their fast bowlers, so they save them for test matches. I mean, they care so much because they're fast bowlers that they rested Hazelwood from a whole World Cup before, so they can play at Ashes. So,
I mean, but still, like after losing to Bangladesh, you don't expect a team to win the whole World Cup. And like, no disrespect to the Bangladesh team, but the Australian team that we know of, like the 2005 team or the 2010 team, this Australian team is like not as good as them, but still they won the World Cup, and here we are.
Yeah. So, but I did think like if Australia could get to the semis, I did think they could make a run for it.
Yeah.
Because they know how to win tournaments.
Yeah.
They have a winning culture, and obviously like I think a lot of us had India and England as favorites, and probably like Pakistan,
first match, Pakistan for sure.
Yeah. Pakistan, New Zealand, probably semis.
The way Pakistan played in the league stage, I mean, I thought they were in the finals for sure, but I guess they had to have a bad game sometime.
Right? So.
Yeah, I guess both semis were upsets. I think everyone was expecting an England-New Zealand final. England-Pakistan.
England-Pakistan final.
England-Pakistan final. Yeah, I think. Yeah, so yeah, I mean Australia do deserve to be World Cup champions. But Aaron Finch came out and said, yeah, the toss definitely helped us a lot. Though I do think now moving on to the New Zealand team, I think their approach in the first 10 overs really costed them. Bowling was not terrible. I think Ish Sodhi had a pretty mediocre day after having a pretty outstanding World Cup,
which is surprising after seeing Zampa's performance in his innings. So it's
Sodhi was struggling with his length, dropping short balls, bowling wides. And Adam Mill also in his first over went. I think Trent Bolt was the only one. But I think New Zealand lost the game in the first 10 overs.
What was class in the power play?
What was class?
Really good ball.
And he's class. I think he's the best. He's the highest wicket taker out of all the fast bowlers in this IPL in the T20. But the thing is, the first 10 overs up till 28 of 35. Daryl Mitchell did not get going, and then Kane was also slow in the first 10. Did not help their cause. But obviously, Kane played an absolute captain's knock. And probably the first time he really opened his shoulders up this World Cup. He's played like decent anchor knocks, as we like to say on this before, but in this game I think Mitchell Stark had his worst figures ever. I think none for 50.
How many? 50 runs, right?
50 plus. Yeah. So it
was a good overall comeback.
Do you think? It was a good comeback by New Zealand. But
How big of a role did Conway breaking his hand? A pretty funny way, actually. But how big of a role did you think that played in terms of New Zealand getting their good start and carrying that into the rest of the final?
well, Conway
He punched his bat, right?
yeah, when he got out to Livingston, he just did this to the bat.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
very common thing to do, by the way. Like a lot of people punch freak injured. I think Conway. I think it had a role. I don't know if it had a huge role because Conway bats at 4, and when New Zealand lost, it was in the power play, and I don't. He would not even come out to bat by the time. The time when he came out to bat, New Zealand. That's when New Zealand were scoring runs. Kane Williamson, with some support from like Glenn Phillips, and I forgot who came with him at the end, but yeah,
Nisham.
And I mean, Nisham's also an excellent striker of the ball, as he showed in the semifinals. But yeah, I don't know if Conway would have had a huge role. I think it was Guptill mainly who really cost New Zealand there, and he had a decent World T20. So I think the thing was, I know I watched the cricketer podcast. They're based in England. They were just talking a lot about how Hazelwood was just allowed to bowl his hard back of a length to Guptill.
Right.
I think in T20 cricket, bowlers like Hazelwood don't usually have great success bowling one line in length.
The test line, yeah.
It's a test match line in length, but you're allowed to. You could just change that, like, but it's coming down, and you know it's coming. But I don't think New Zealand were proactive enough against Hazelwood, which was probably expected of Guptill to at least be able to at least like come down the wicket and try to change his length up and forcing him bowl some other variations. Hazelwood was brilliant, not taking anything away from Hazelwood, but New Zealand definitely played him very poorly.
Also, one thing that I noticed was that both the semifinals were the exact copy of each other. Like the team bowling second was dominating for the first 15 overs of the second innings, and then somehow there was 1 over in between, and the team batting second just took the game away. And I think both Australia and New Zealand needed around 22 of the last 2 overs, and they won the game.
Lost it in the second last over.
Yeah.
I think let's segue into the semifinals. Let's start with England, New Zealand. I think England. I still believe England is the best T20 team in the world. I know Australia won the World Cup. I think if England and New Zealand had a 5-match series for the semis, and then England played
with a full strength squad for England, right?
Yeah. Even without a full squad, even this team. I don't think Ben Stokes is needed in England's T20 team anyways.
Archer.
I think Archer is the only thing they were missing, and then later losing Mills was costly. But I think England is still the best T20 team in the world. I think crucial mistake they made in the semifinal. I mean, it's easy to say in hindsight because Sam Billings didn't bat, so it's very easy to say why would you pick Sam Billings. But I think when you have a player when you have Bairstow, Milan, Moeen, 3 players who could open the batting anyways, and you have Ewan Morgan batting at 6, and he's not even batting half the games. I think they could have easily gone in with a extra bowling option, especially maybe a fast bowler. I think David Willey would have been the best option they would have had. They easily could have gone with that option, especially because David Willey can hit the ball too. So he's not a big drop off batting at 7. I think Milan or Bairstow. I think Bairstow opening would have been fine. He's one of the best T20 openers anyways in the world, even though he has a great record at 4. So I think that would prove costly for England. They didn't get that fast power play start that Boy very nicely gives every time. And then the fact is they were lacking in death bowlers. Chris Wilkes had a very good T20 World Cup, but he was very poor in the death. They were forced to bowl Adil Rashid in the 17th over to a left-handed batsman, which was not a good matchup at all.
I mean, I think where England lacked overall was their death bowling options, right? I mean, Chris Jordan, yes, he's their death bowler. Like that's not really saying much, and that's not like something you'd expect from an England team. Yeah, that's where Archer would probably fit in the best, and then Willie could also bowl death, even though he's mainly new ball bowler, but he's another option. I agree they needed that pace.
Yeah, with Willie bowling with the new ball would have allowed them to spread other bowlers further.
Exactly.
Like Wood or Jordan might have had to bowl a bit later. Jordan had a poor day out, but Woke should not be bowling the penultimate over. Woke should not be bowling the 19th over in a T20. He should be bowling 2 overs in power, 3 overs in power play, and maybe 1 in the middle. Which is a role he did very well. I think also that game did not give Moeen Ali any bowling, which was a little surprise. I think the reasoning for that was Daryl Mitchell was a right-hander and Devin Conway, the lefty, has a better record actually against the ball turning away than turning in. So they gave Matt Parkinson 4 overs instead of Moeen Ali. But if Moeen Ali had gotten a couple overs in the power play,
Livingston, right?
Livingston, not Parkinson, yeah. Livingston, who bowled exceptionally well in the semi.
Yeah,
but
which is it was a great find for England at least.
But Moeen, but if you look at Moeen's record with the ball, 11 average, 5 economy, except bowling in the power play too. So I think if they could have gotten a couple overs of him out of the way in the start, then they could have actually spread out their bowling options more and would have been better suited to the death. But I think also ifs and buts don't win cricket games.
Yeah.
Nisham
also, Moeen had just played in UAE with CSK, so he was well versed with the situations and the pitches. So I think it would have been better if he had gotten more overs, at least in the semi-final.
Because you only had 5 bowling options in the semi-final. You only bowled 5 bowlers, right? Maybe 6.
They only bowled 5, yeah.
5, yeah.
Adil, Moeen, or not Adil, Livingston,
Wood, Wilkes, and
3
Jordan.
Pacers, yeah.
Wood, Wilkes, and Jordan, yeah. So yeah.
What are your thoughts on the prospect of Owen Morgan sitting himself out so that another bowling option or like a all-rounder could come in? Because like he wasn't really adding value with the bat. It was just.
Wasn't never needed though, right?
Yeah, he never really came in.
He never came into bat.
I think a lot of the criticism came in from like the KKR knocks that he had to play.
Yeah.
That sort of just transitioned. He never really had to come in for England.
Yeah. I think the only game he came in, he actually batted decently well. It was against Sri Lanka when they actually had a little class, and he supported Butler through 100. You know, you're batting at 5'6". You should not expect your number 5, number 6 to be having high averages, especially a team with England where their top 4 is so consistent. And Moeen using the floater role, Livingston in the floater role, they were always going ahead of Morgan. Morgan was definitely playing as a specialist captain in this tournament.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he did get a couple things wrong. I think, Adil Rashid bowling that over and Chris Wilkes 19 were very costly. But great revenge story for Jimmy Neesham. Obviously, he was on the wrong side of the 20. He was at the heart of the 2019 World Cup final. He was the bowler when Trent Bolt stepped on the boundary, and he was also the batting when
super over
in the super over, and he's the one who made this. He's the one who did tie the game, crucially, right? It was a good little comeback for him. But as he said himself, the job is not done, and he'll have to wait till next year now to see if he can get the job done again for New Zealand because they were not able to succeed.
It was a fairly similar catch on the boundary, right, with Berso tossing it back to Livingston.
Yeah, that would have been
flashback to New Zealand.
That would have been insane though catch. That was a lot more difficult than the one both had.
Definitely. Yeah.
Australia, Pakistan, which is probably a bigger upset, I'd say. Considering how Pakistan was probably the team of the tournament coming into the semis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with Shaheen blowing with his tail up pretty much all the entire tournament. Rizwan Babur batting very consistently. Obviously, cool story or not cool, but very nice, turnaround of events for Rizwan coming out of the hospital, seeing all this and batting amazingly. It's amazing to see such players come up like this. Consistent with him. Babur not scoring too quickly. I think that's sort of where they lost it. That's where a lot of teams lost it here when they're batting first. It's in the power play. They went too slowly. Same thing happened.
Pitches can't be doing that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
I think Pakistan had a good total. Like they lost the game after the 18th over, especially when Hassan Ali dropped that catch and then Shaheen just went for 3 sixes. I think if he had taken that catch or like if they had 10 more runs, but I really don't think the batting was the problem. It was just the death bowling. They were winning the game for 18 overs.
To be honest, even if that catch was taken, I still think Australia would have made that total.
It would have been on Stoinis, but it was 2 over. There's still 6 balls to go after that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know who was assigned to bowl that final. I think Harris Roth, who was not having a good day. Harris Roth, Hassan Ali were all. I think. Shadab was brilliant in the semi-final. Forward kids got all the players up, but Australia. I think the batting depth saved them that game. I think having Wade at 7, a lot of teams' options at 7 are usually not a specialist batsman. It's usually an all-rounder, maybe a bowling all-rounder. New Zealand's in that game was Mitchell Santner. So having Wade at 7 was very, very crucial because it basically allowed Stoinis to actually – it didn't put all the onus on Stoinis, who also played a brilliant cameo knock. Wade – as much as Shaheen and Hassan Ali are getting abused after this game, which is expected from any of the Asian teams. The shots Wade played were unbelievable. Like two scoops to win the World Cup is not exactly what you expect all the time. One stop ball went for 6, but the 2 scoop shots were absolutely it was top class cricket, that one.
This was Wade's Michael Hussey moment.
Yeah, Wade, Michael Hussey versus Saeed Ajmal moment, exactly. A lot of people were like saying that as well 11 years later. But I think I think Bobber's batting slowly. It was a bit similar to Guptill's innings in the final. I think that was a little costly. I mean, Fakhar Zaman and Rizwan batted really well to help still get a above par total, I'd say. But I don't see these 2 games. I don't know if Dew had a huge factor. So usually when you chasing teams, when cricket benefits a chasing team too much, it's usually because of Dew. I don't know if Dew had a huge factor. I feel like the fast bowlers just really did miss their lengths. And I think Stoinis and Wade, and then Mitchell and Nisham played some extremely good shots.
Yeah, I think that's where we're not giving enough credit to Australia, right? They've been here and they've done this before. And they've been in similar scenarios. I mean, granted, 2019 semifinal didn't really go their way, but they're a fairly experienced team. They're old players compared to the rest of the World Cup teams. So I think that experience really benefited them compared to what seemed to be a younger Pakistan team in this case.
We should also give another thing is if you match up the 2 innings, Pat Cummins 19th over went for 3 runs.
Right.
That's a massive. It's not something you're gonna remember. In a year ago when we talk about the World Cup again, we're not gonna remember that a stat like that. But those are the small things that win the World Cup. So, yeah, I think that's a good coverage of the 4 semifinal of the 4 teams that made the semis.
Yeah.
I think quickly. I think you guys. I'm sure you guys are aware. Babar Azam David Warner got MVP of the tournament.
Yeah.
Debate Amal since Babar Azam is number 1 run scorer. His average is actually 10 runs higher. Warner's striker is 20 points higher. Do you guys think Babar should deserve the MVP? Someone else should have gotten it?
So I think Pakistan didn't even make it to the finals, though Babar played really well, but it's usually the team who wins. The man of the tournament should be from the team who wins, or at least the team who's in the final.
Right.
Warner played beautifully. He was the highest run scorer. Also, I mean, he proved most of his critics wrong, especially the critics in SRH. And he was removed from the SRH team after 2 matches. He was removed from the captaincy. So in that regard, he proved a lot of his critics wrong. He batted brilliantly. Also, Babar played really well. He was Pakistan's main batsman along with Rizwan, but I mean he wasn't able to make his team reach the finals. And I think unless you're into the final and you win the World Cup, I don't think you should have the Player of the Tournament award.
Right, because I mean 2019 World Cup, Kane Williamson got MVP, but Rohit Sharma did not get it, and he was his highest run scorer. Shakib was in the top 5 run scorers and had 10 plus wickets as well. But India or Bangladesh did not make the finals, so they didn't give it. Mitchell Starc who was the leading wicket taker by a long way, did not get MVP either. So I agree on that. I don't think David Warner should win MVP. Yet again, cricket shows that they're a batsman's game. I think Zampa is clearly MVP of this tournament. In fact, I don't even think it's close. Zampa's the second highest wicket taker of the tournament. He had 13 wickets. Hasaranga is leading wicket taker, but he also played the qualifiers before, which are counted into these stats. Hasaranga was absolute brilliant. He's one of the most brilliant finds of the World Cup as well. But Zampa went under 6 and over every game, except for the England game where they were chasing 100. He had a fifer as well against Bangladesh. A very crucial fifer because Australia did edge out South Africa on net run rate. That defeat Bangladesh was extremely costly because South Africa did not beat Bangladesh as hard, and that might have cost them a spot. Under 6 and over in both the final and semi-final. Crucial wickets in the middle overs. He only had 1 fifer. Did pick up 3 for 4 for every game, but 2 for 1 for 20. Never conceding more than 24 runs. I think Zampa's clearly the MVP of this tournament.
Also,
Yeah.
if New Zealand had won, I think the story would have been very different. Someone like Bolt would have been the MVP.
Yeah, I think Bolt would have been MVP then.
Yeah.
In fact, this was actually a leg spinners tournament if you look at it.
Mm.
Obviously, Rashid Khan, brilliant as always. Other Rashid was pretty good this World Cup. Sodhi until the final was really good. Zampa Hasaranga. Shadab Khan was also really, really good. So I think it was a great tournament for leg spin. 2019 World Cup, there wasn't too many leg spinners who had a great tournament. But I remember 2016 T20 World Cup, there was a big emphasis on leg spin.
Mm.
And I think the leg spin really dominated this T20 World Cup. But I can't even think of too many leg spinners that did not have a good T20 World Cup. Even Liam Livingston, who started going leg spin 2 years ago. He's always been off spinner. But he goes leg spin now to righties. Had a brilliant T20 World Cup as well with the ball. So
I think the Indian leg spinners didn't have a great tournament. I mean, Chahar only played one game and didn't take any wickets.
they don't play leg spinners.
Sorry?
India don't have a leg spinner that they played. They played Ashwin.
They played Chahar.
They played Chahar against Namibia.
Yeah. He just played one game.
Yeah. India did. Yeah, because I mean, we could talk about India, but whether Chahal should have been in their 11 after his comeback for RCB. But outside of that, all the leg spinners were really, really good for throughout this World Cup.
Yeah, I think also most valuable player just in terms of for Australia, what led them to like their success, I think was Hazelwood, also Zampa. But I think the like having that important pace bowler without Stark bowling at in his prime or bowling well, Cummins bowled decently as well. I think Hazelwood was the leading, and we talked about him before, but he was the leading pacer for Australia, and that helped a lot. Not really the like MVP of the tournament, but I think he put in a good shift for that.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a batsman game that it's going to be going to Warner in this case. Zampa played beautifully. But
there were calls also for Joss Butler, whether he should have been it
with the 100, and
with the 100.
Again, same thing. Yeah, he again not making the final, not winning the tournament. It all plays into that. Yeah.
Though I will say Butler is one of the players who actually looked most comfortable on these pitches. And I mean, why are we surprised? He's one of the best white ball players of all time, anyways. So
right.
You guys want to talk about some of the teams maybe that like did not make the semis? Why? Maybe we could start with South Africa. Probably very, very unlucky, if to be honest, to not be there. They only lost one game, that to Australia, but
they beat England too, right?
So, they beat England. They beat England in a very highly pressured game, where they had to win to give themselves a shot. South Africa their players did fairly well. Most of their batsmen had runs. Obviously their tournament started off with a bit of drama with the whole Quinton de Kock thing, but their bowlers, Shamsi, Maharaj were very good as well. Shamsi is another leg spinner who's had a great tournament. Rabada was fairly good, picked up a hat trick against England, obviously.
Rossi batted really well. Yeah,
RVD, even Bavuma was pretty decent this T20 World Cup. De Kock was decent. Definitely got to feel a bit for South Africa in the tougher group. They were in the tougher group for sure, and they came out of it pretty strong. And I think they know it themselves. South Africa, their coach and captain said we were pretty happy with the performance we put. We know we probably screwed up against Bangladesh, not beating them as hard as we could have. But I think you cannot count them out in the World Cup coming next year, especially in Australian conditions, which will be more suitable to their team. I think South Africa.
To be honest, I feel like that's going to be a lot more exciting to watch as a whole in terms of the tournament. For this, I mean, I watched almost every match, but I think it was fairly like, I don't know, it wasn't as exciting as like even the 2019 World Cup personally for me. But yeah, I think Australian conditions would help with the crowd, stadiums. The pitch itself is just
the boundaries are going to be huge. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I actually did not. I found this World Cup to be pretty boring.
Yeah,
I watched three full games. England, New Zealand semifinal, the final, and then India, Pakistan. Right. And India, Pakistan was an absolute boring match. Pakistan destroyed India. They didn't even have. There was like not even.
The second innings, the chase was like. I mean, good job, Babar and Rizwan, but
yeah. It was a very
wicked win. So
yeah, I found this World Cup to be pretty boring. I mean, I also feel like cricket. We've had way too much T20 cricket.
True.
We had 2 legs of IPL. I maintained the second leg of IPL. I didn't care for that either. Like someone asked me last week who won the IPL this year, and I literally can blank stare. I remembered it was Chennai.
Yeah.
But I could just have said Mumbai or Chennai, and I'm usually great. So
yeah,
I found this. I find there's too much T20 cricket. I probably definitely.
I think we'll get a decent break soon, right?
We're not. We have India's playing New Zealand in 2 days.
Yeah,
New
but the test
Zealand,
matches are
India.
coming up, and Ashes too, right? So I think Ashes will be like a
T20
reset.
series.
I know, that's first, but then their test series is after.
This is where you gotta ask, like, why? What is the point of India? If like India should play like, both teams actually should just play like random domestic players and just give them debuts and stuff. It's an absolute pointless series. Yeah, I'm waiting for.
I think we can talk about this later, but I think players like Gaikwad and like Venkatesh Iyer will get their opportunity, and it's perfect for them to show.
I will not be watching all of that, especially because it's at 5:30 a.m. here.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
But yeah, I think we've got way too much T20 cricket. I'm waiting for Ashes.
Yes.
New Zealand test series should be okay. I mean, it's in India. We know what Indians.
There's also like missing players here and there too, so it's not.
But I think the Ashes is what I mean. I think this year's Test cricket has been. I don't know if I'm biased because I am a huge fan of Test cricket, but I think Test cricket quality has been really, really good this year compared to T20 cricket. Obviously, we've had the India-Australia series, the India-England series. We also had that Bangladesh-West Indies series that was very thrilling as well. England-New Zealand series right before India, England was also really, really good. And I'm sure.
I'm glad though. Yeah, the quality of Test cricket increasing. It's I think bringing more eyes to that side of the sport. And
this is not what I'm saying is not even an unpopular opinion. A lot of people are saying that they enjoy the Test matches way more than this T20 World Cup. And and usually I get this from cricket players like me, but even cricket fans, like even my roommate who just watches cricket only. He watches like 6 other sports. He was like, I did not care for this World Cup as much as I cared for India, England, or India, Australia.
It's good, yeah.
So yeah, I think
also with the World Test Championship, the Test matches are becoming more competitive, and like the viewership is also increasing. So
right, we had a great WTC final as well.
Yeah.
Definitely highlighted the start of a great summer. But I think T20 cricket is just getting a little too repetitive. Especially this World Cup, it was the repetition of games always having similar score. Then it just gets chased down. Very toss dependent. Oh yeah, I disagree. You said earlier this was a great World Cup. I think it was okay T20 World Cup. I think 2016 and 2014 were a lot better than this one. No, I don't also love games being played at UAE mainly because only the Asian teams ever get a crowd.
True, yeah. If you watch like the group stages for England matches, and it was empty. There were just few people in the stands versus like the first India-Pakistan match was like filled.
Right, I mean we know the Asian teams will have the biggest support, but in Australia, or if it was in Australia or England, the crowds will still be full for England Australia games, right? Like, like a team like England or Australia deserve a full crowd. Like Australia, the champions, England have such an exciting team to watch. Right. So I think that's the disappointing thing about UAE. Like, I don't think the fan base is as prominent as whether it had been in India or England or New Zealand or Australia. So that also kind of dulled the thrill of certain matches. I think we had mentioned India or West Indies were possible favorites, so we could probably talk about their exit. Let's start with West Indies. I never have West Indies listed as a favorite. I've said it before.
No, if you look at their squad and then also looking at how they like their players like Russell and whatever, what's his name? Mumbai Indians.
Pollard.
Yeah, Pollard. Oh yeah. Just players like them, just seeing their performance, and then I don't know, just you think that would translate into like international cricket?
Yeah. I mean, I know West Indies, they have that hype because they also won 2 T20 World Cups, but I just felt UAE pitches. I didn't know if that would really help them a lot.
They looked very mediocre this entire tournament. So.
Yeah, I don't know. There were always too many debates about Roston Chase being in the team because he's an anchor player. I never thought of him as a T20 player. Their bowlers were like, I don't even really remember their bowling attack, but they were pretty mediocre throughout as well. Their spinner, they had one spinner, Hussain, who had a pretty decent World T20. Obviously, his highlight was that one-handed catch he took against England, but yeah, even against England, right? Moeen Ali is a decent bowler, but you shouldn't. You're not expecting Moeen Ali and Chris Woakes to clean you up for almost 55 with 55 all out, right? Something like
So,
that.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
That's like, and there was nothing. That pitch was not terrible. It was a slow pitch, but Moynihan cleaned up in the power play. That was shocking, man.
But also for some reason, England lost 4 wickets while chasing that score.
Right?
So
Yeah.
could be something with the pitch too.
Yeah, but it was just slow. But it's not like it was a massive turner. Balls were keeping low or anything. I think England also went a bit hard because they were like quick run rate and stuff. But yeah, after that game, it just never Wesley just never looked like getting into the tournament.
Yeah,
I mean, they beat Bangladesh. That was it, right? That was their only win.
Yeah.
Bangladesh and they lost to Sri Lanka, right?
Yes. Or no. Yeah, they had only won one game against Bangladesh, so they lost to Sri Lanka as well.
Yeah.
I think with the West Indies, it's just hit or miss. Like when their squad was announced, among those 15 players, at least 10 of them were all-rounders. So like in your team, you have 7 batsmen and 7 bowlers related to the skill set, but they didn't have the good quality players. They didn't have the skill levels. They just had brute power. So I think that didn't pan out well for them.
Yeah. On to India's exit, at least. I think that was the first 2 matches, right? Pretty much summed up. And like you knew what was going to happen for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, I don't know if India did much wrong in selection or anything or strategy wise. I think
Ashwin maybe, but I don't know.
Ashwin possibly should have played. Yeah. I do understand why they would have gone with Varun Chakravarti because he did have the better IPL season. And he definitely deserved a spot.
Okay, better IPL season, debatable.
He had a really good IPL season, and he was.
Yeah, I mean, compared to Ashwin, the way he finished off with DC was strong. Especially, I don't know if that very last over Ashwin bowled was just perfect for DC.
Right. See, okay, look, the IPL. I can barely remember World T20 matches. I don't remember IPL matches.
Yeah. That's why I'm thinking based off of like standout like performances and Ashwin's like first name.
Like IPL, like I didn't watch any.
Yeah,
it was the most boring IPL ever. But if I do remember, Varun Chakravarti did have a better tournament, and he's been having a good IPL, and he's been waiting a long time to make his India debut because he's had like fitness issues.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, that's hard to debate against. Like not versus. I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, but anyways, their scores against New Zealand and Pakistan were under par. A lot of people have said they played too many anchor batsmen. Rohit and KL in the first game didn't have anchor. They got out. So that's a straight up a dumb argument. They're just blown away.
You just had one anchor batsman, right? Kohli.
Kohli was anchor. Yeah.
Rohit and Rahul are considered anchors too. They're not Jason Roy or David Warner.
But in the for matches after the first 2, like Rahul proved that and Rohit proved that they are not. They can hit, right?
Yeah,
they prove their class.
Rahul made like 3 half centuries and Rohit made that 70 and 150. Yeah. But again, those were against the other 3 teams.
Right. But the point is, they didn't score like 30 off 30 and then get out. That's an anchor role. Rohit got first ball. KL got like 5. So it's clearly not an anchor role. I mean, Rohit has a left arm swing weakness at times, but I think it's been nullified mostly. I mean, I can't really doubt his playing of swing bowling after he was basically MVP for India in the England Test series. But I think he got an absolute ripper and he's gonna get his front pad out of the way. I didn't think Kohli did not. I don't know if Kohli's 50 in the. I think he could have definitely scored 20 more runs. Kohli because there's a balls he played in against Pakistan.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. Like 50 or 45 odd balls is just not good enough.
Yeah, even 2 early wickets, you still should be able to. Yeah. Butler would not do that, right?
But Butler would probably make 100 of 60.
And he did make 100.
Such a situation. Yeah.
He against Sri Lanka, they lost 2 early wickets too, and he made 100. But I don't want to overanalyze India's loss. I don't think they should dump the whole team and stuff like that.
I don't think they will for the next World Cup too. Like they'll have the core and they'll just chop and change a few players.
Right. They might try out some new IPL players, but I think Kishan, after Kohli said, no ways we're dropping Rohit for Ishan, and then him playing the New Zealand match was just very confusing. And
I don't know what they did with the order either, right? Putting Kishan as an opener and then Rohit 3. That just I don't know.
It was just very classic Kohli, just overacting.
you can't not play Rohit Sharma as an opener. Like if that man is in your team, he has to be the opener.
Yeah.
I know he's played in the middle order earlier, but I mean, he's an absolute beast when he opens.
I think they just thought, left arm swing bowler, Pakistan got him first ball. They didn't want, maybe they'd like
Bolt or
let
something.
Kishan play off Bolt, and then Rohit can come in. But basically be open because they technically said Kishan out there to dish dash. He scored 4 off 8. It's not like he scored 4 off 2 and got out. He still wasted a few balls as well. But yeah, they were poor in that. They were poor against the New Zealand game. And I don't think the bowlers ever had a chance of defending that total, especially in a tournament where chasing was so crucial. They never had a chance with the total. So there's definitely no onus could be put on the bowlers. I don't know why Shami got abused after the Pakistan game. That was probably one of the dumbest things ever.
That was so unfortunate.
He conceded runs when they needed like 2 and over. So all he did basically was allow fans to leave the stadium earlier. So
yeah, helping him out.
So like it was not a big deal.
Yeah.
So that was pretty pathetic, especially because a lot of it was religion based. So, but I don't think India has huge issues in their T20 team. I still think they're a top 3 T20 side in the world as well. I think they just had 2 bad days, I guess. And they
I think
against Afghanistan. Right?
I think with a new captain, they'll be able to build another team for mainly the same team, but like another leadership setup for the next World Cup, which might help them reach the finals.
Pretty interesting to see. I think that's probably the only reason I'll watch some of like the New Zealand matches, just to see how Rohit is doing.
We've seen him for Mumbai and stuff,
but with an Indian team, it may be different. So
could be different, yeah. I do see like Kohli. I do think Kohli's invincibility is lost as a batsman. Obviously, it's highlighted for 102 years. He had a decent series in England, in a Test series, but I did think during his Pakistan innings, his invincibility is a bit gone because Kohli 3 years ago, he would have played that same way, but he would have been able to accelerate a lot better and ended up on like a 70 or 80 runs. But I do think the Kohli right now, I don't know if it's
I'm a bit interested to see how he'll do without captaincy. So, I mean, there's obviously rumors of him being dropped because he's not captaining the side, etc. I think they'll give him a few chances in the first like few T20 matches where he's back, and it'll be pretty interesting to see how he plays without the pressure of having to captain.
I don't think he'll ever get dropped. I don't think everyone will make that decision. He might make a decision that he can only play 2 formats.
Right.
I mean, we've seen like
there's got to be pressure from the board, though. To be honest, I mean, there's a reason he stepped down from captaincy as well.
Yeah,
I think there'll be pressure for the ODI captaincy too, so that there's continuity in the white ball format at least. But yeah, I don't think he'll be dropped from the team. Ultimately, like there's the Virat Kohli brand name behind him.
Right.
So I mean, dropping him from the team would be a huge decision, and I don't think Indian cricket is ready to make that yet.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But I do think he won't be playing a lot of T20. He'll keep resting, taking breaks, especially with like this pointless New Zealand series that's coming up in 2 days. Because there's not too many. Like even if you look at it this way, like even Joe Root doesn't play for England, right? And Ben Stokes doesn't play for England because England play way too much cricket. Joe Root and Ben Stokes have realized that England can definitely win. They'll win games without those two, anyways. At T20, let them focus on Test cricket, as a format England's not exactly been great in, anyways. I think Steve Smith does not have to play T20 cricket either for Australia. I think they have better players, and he can better manage himself to be, one of the best Test batsmen of all time, and be a very good ODI batsman as well. I think Kane Williams is. I'm looking at the Fab Four. Kane Williams is probably the only one who's most needed because not only is he very, very good, but I don't think New Zealand have backup options as crazy as Australia, India, or England do. But even he will probably be resting from a lot of matches. I know Kane Williams also does not play every T20, and they do have very good backups too in that team. I know there were a couple of omissions from the New Zealand World T20 squad that I was a little shocked by, but Guptill is also getting to the end of his career, so New Zealand will also probably have a couple of young blood.
Chapman and etc.
Yeah, Chapman, even Tim Cypher, who came in for Conway. Actually, one thing we forgot to talk about, that move to put Daryl Mitchell the opener. was very, very
Oh,
surprising.
worked out.
Conway's an opener. Glenn Phillips could have opened.
Yeah.
Daryl Mitchell, the all-rounder opening, was a very, very surprising move, but that worked very well for New Zealand. Won them.
Yeah, clearly.
Played 2 very good innings, one against India and one obviously match winning against England. That was a very surprising move that pulled off. New Zealand tactically have always been one of the best tactician nations forever for at least 30 years. But in regards to the Kohli again, I think India do have players who can do as well as Kohli. They're not better than Kohli, but they can play in T20 cricket, and then he can focus on being the ODI and becoming an ODI and Test legend, which he almost is at anyways.
Right.
But getting dropped, I don't see that happening.
Also, one thing that England did really well and some countries like India missed out on was resting their players before the T20 World Cup. England was really criticized for this too during the bilateral series, resting main players and chopping and changing after every match. But I think that really helped them to play well and have their players well rested before the World Cup. And the Indian players were in a bio bubble for like 6 months this year, and they were on the go always. So I think that was another reason which cost them.
Yeah, England have had an absurd amount of cricket this year. I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast ever since February when England at home, back in India, where it's being played, and England are resting pretty key players, and even for that series because they still have an Ashes to worry about now. Their cricket's not even close.
They have a pretty good rest and rotation policy. And the board.
All right. For the last part of the podcast, let's talk about a little bit about the underdogs of this tournament. The associate nations. Don't think there were any like major upsets, unfortunately, in this T20 World Cup, which is very disappointing. I mean, obviously, on this show, we love seeing associates do well.
Namibia, I guess, beting Ireland out for the spot.
Yeah, that was
sort of an upset
for sure. Yeah.
They also beat Scotland in the group stages.
That was definitely a big surprise. I mean, I'm not too familiar with Namibia cricket before this T20 phase, but I have rated Scotland as a very, very good cricketing side. So especially when they beat England in that one-off ODI game. So that was definitely a surprise. I think Afghanistan ran Pakistan very, very close. Obviously, I have to say Afghanistan, I think on these pitches, they have one of the best spin attacks. Obviously, Mujib and Rashid were brilliant. Nabi was really good. I think they just need smarter fast bowlers who are able to at least just minimize damage done. Because if you have 12 overs of Nabi, Rashid, and Mujib, you're going to get targeted as a fast bowler. Afghanistan don't have fast bowlers like the other nations did, which probably cost them 1 or 2 more victories that could have made them semi-finalists. But I think they just need a couple more fast bowlers. They need more fast bowlers, like just in general, that are breaking through into the team, probably that are able to also click 135, 140 plus. But yeah, it would have been nice to see Afghanistan win a game against one of the major nations. Obviously, they're a test nation now, but they're still because I still put them as ODI as associate category still because they did come from there only like a couple years ago. So I think outside of the Pakistan game, they were beating pretty.
I mean, it's tough for Afghanistan to win if it's like match fixing against India and all that, right? Come on.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh my bad. Yeah, forgot.
Yeah. You can't blame them for that.
They wanted their IPL contracts. I forgot.
Chasing the bag, yeah, exactly.
Though that was true, I'm sure Ambani would have called up Trent Bolt and told him to bowl crap against Afghanistan. So there's no Mumbai Indians next year. I'm sure whoever SRH owner is would have told Kane, like, Kane, Anna, if you want to be captain, make sure you score 20 of 80 balls. But that didn't happen.
Ambani didn't have enough money for the Afghanistan-New Zealand game.
Nah, no, Ambani's Mumbai Indian, so he can only control Bolt. But
yeah. On a more serious note, I think Afghanistan's rise in international cricket in the past few years has been amazing to watch. Like, especially with what's going on inside the country right now, they've been playing amazingly, and I think in the next 4 or 5 years they'll be a solid contender to even win ICC trophies.
I really hope so, because I hope what's going on right now doesn't undo what they've done in the past 5 years. Obviously, Australia is not hosting Afghanistan for a test match anymore because they're pretty clear. If you don't have a girls team, no, you're not allowed to come play cricket on our shores. And that is a rule in ICC. I think to be a full member nation, you have to have a women's and men's team. And
that's true, but like
how Venice came out and said, no, you're not. Girls are not playing cricket here.
Yeah, that's true. But like the men's team, I don't think the men's team has a problem with that. It's their local government and their rulers who do not allow that. So I think that shouldn't be a reason to not have series with Afghanistan in general.
Right, but
like
Australia is already
totally
Afghanistan, right?
I totally understand why every country should have a girls team, but like political issues shouldn't be the reason why Afghanistan cricket doesn't do as well as they can.
I mean, I hope so, but what I'm trying to say is like they already lost. They lost a test match against Australia. They don't get Afghanistan and Ireland have not got that many test matches since getting full member nation. A test match against Australia is a great opportunity to. I mean, like it's just a great match for them to play. Like to play it in an Australian ground test cricket, that's like a big deal, and they just lost that opportunity because of politics, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I think I'm sure you guys are aware. Nabi had sponsored the tour.
Yeah.
He put all the money in. Rashid Khan has been playing, and his family's not doing the best. He's literally said that he's out here just dominating T20 leagues and stuff, and because he has to get money for his own family, and that's not something what international cricketers have to think about. They shouldn't have to be worrying about their families' lives. They shouldn't have to be worrying about money. Like whether we have enough money to go on tour, whether we get paid. That's not something a test playing nation should have to deal with. And that is
like a Cal cricket issue.
That's a Cal cricket issue, right? That's something we have issues with. That's not something the Afghan cricket team. A team of Rashid Khan, the best T20 bowler in the world, should not have to be worrying about something like that. Nami should not be able to put his entire higher savings in order to sponsor a team to play a T20 World Cup. So that is something that will stagnate a cricket country, which is something we don't want to see, because Afghanistan's rise in the past 10 years is one of cricket's best love stories at the moment. So that's I just hope their issues get resolved. Obviously, I'm not well versed in what's everything that's going on and what the future is, but I really hope cricket doesn't stagnate because of that.
On another note, Ireland's coming to Florida, I think. Okay, ODI. It's good experience for US.
Yeah, and the under 19
slowly getting into it. Yeah.
The two under 19 teams are also getting to play against each other. It was really good because the US under 19 team were denied. Canada refused to play them earlier this year due to COVID reasons, and since Canada are ranked higher, they immediately qualified for the World Cup. So the US under 19 team didn't even get to play any cricket at all, which is really disappointing because a lot of those guys are my boys. So it was really unfortunate for them.
The US will be in the qualifiers for next year, though, right?
Right. Yeah. So they qualified a couple of days ago. They won. They won very, very easily. They had. It was very interesting. Because I'm sure most of our viewers are not fully aware. USA played Canada in a game, and it's a shootout between USA and Canada. Basically, the other nations are not competitive at all, and it got down to 3 off the last ball, and USA were batting, and Ali Khan, USA's premier fast bowler, he missed the ball, and then Rusty Thera and the non-striker came through for a bye. The keeper ran to the stumps, ran him out. And they started celebrating like hell. But what the thing was, Rusty Theron actually made it. And while they were celebrating, ball is not dead. They ran another run, so it tied. And in fact, they could have ran another. Ali Khan just did not run third for no reason. Rusty tried to run and got run out. But the game ended up being tied. A game Canada should not have lost. All they had to do was just hold the ball for 2 more seconds. And game went to super over, and Steven Taylor just hit like 3 sixes, and USA ended up winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I think any other final thoughts before we wrap up on the T20 World Cup?
Like I've said before, I'm good, decent month of cricket, but I'm so done with T20 cricket.
Yeah. Same.
I can't wait for the.
We all have the same sentiment.
Yeah. Can't wait for the Ashes. Our next video will definitely be an Ashes preview, anyways.
Yep. Yeah, I think we may talk about the New Zealand Test series. We'll see. Probably not. Yeah. But
don't even bother me about the New Zealand T20 series. I don't care if someone hits a double 100. I'm not gonna watch it.
Kane Williamson's opted out for the series as well.
Yeah, good.
All right, I think we're done.
I also have opted out.
Nice. All right. Awesome. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for listening, and make sure you subscribe as well. And